Good morning, everyone. Nice to see you. I'm joining you from lovely Phoenix, Arizona, in my lovely corporate housing. I'm here for a week of work, so it's fun to reconnect with this community. You know, when you're on the road and traveling for work, it's kind of like a nice touchstone of normalcy and sort of friendly faces when you're on the road. So good to see you all. I wanted just to start, well, I was going to talk about path, P-A-T-H, path, as in the spiritual path. A few people have been asking a few of us, of the teachers, about path and Buddhist path and our path. And so I was going to talk about that, sort of my personal story about it. But Jim's talk on Tuesday about kindness reminded me of a quote that I wanted to share, and I'm just going to say it now, and then I'll say it again before we sit as something to potentially contemplate this morning. So the quote is, "Pain is not a punishment. Pleasure is not a reward. Kindness, kindness, kindness." The story is that a teacher called Trungpa, Trungpa, Trungpa Rinpoche, who was an important teacher to all four of us, Jim, Catherine, and I, was asked to marry two of his meditation students. And he agreed to do it, and on the appointed day showed up at the meditation hall where they were going to have the wedding. And you know, everyone was there and dressed up, and all the family was there, and no one was really ever sure what to exactly expect when Trungpa Rinpoche showed up. But you know, they sort of expected a talk or a wedding experience from somebody who would come in and, you know, exchange vows and things like that with the couple. Instead, apparently, the story goes that he walked to the front of the room with holding an enormous scarf, like a scarf that was about 10-15 feet long, a long white scarf. And he wrapped it around the head of the bride, and then he wrapped it around the head of the groom, and then he pulled it tight so that their two heads sort of like smushed together, like head to head, facing the crowd. And he was standing in front of them, and he said that quote, "Pain is not a punishment. Pleasure is not a reward. Kindness, kindness, kindness." And then unwrapped them, and they were married. That was it. So I've been contemplating this quote, you know, since I first heard that story, and I'm not going to try to talk about what it means to me, other than just to share it because of what Jim was saying about kindness on Tuesday. But I did want to just talk a tiny bit about Trungpa Rinpoche. And this man who was very important, I think, in the lives of all four of us, and maybe some of you on the call. He was, you know, at the basic level, born in Tibet, and raised in an environment, in a culture, in a you know, birth situation about as different as one can imagine. Like, he was recognized as a reincarnated teacher when he was a boy. He was taken from his family, you know, on the steppes and prairies of Tibet, and brought to a monastery in far eastern Tibet, in Kham, as a 3 or 4 year old. His mom came with him, but he he basically never saw his father or the rest of his family again. And he was raised by monks and trained in this very specific and very rigorous, you could say somewhat abusive, although he didn't really say it that way, but he told stories of very intense training and sometimes punishment in this monastic feudal environment, where he was basically to become the local leader of this valley. And then the Chinese invaded in 1959, and it was his responsibility to more or less lead a party out of Tibet and into India. It was a journey that took 4 or 5 months, a journey where the party started with over 200 people and ended up with something like 5 or 6 people alive who actually escaped. So, pretty much the definition of, the traumatic world-breaking event in his early life as a young man. His entire world shattered, lived in India, went to England actually on a scholarship and studied in England, and then came to the United States in the early 70s. He was one of the most important teachers who brought Buddhism to the West. There's a handful of incredible teachers from Japan, from China, from Vietnam, and from Tibet, who really taught and wrote and spoke and shared, the teachings of Buddhism generally into the US and Europe. He was, you could say, just a genius in terms of his ability to communicate and translate, a fundamentally different worldview than the sort of Judeo-Christian worldview. He had the sort of bravery and vision to propose a world and a society that was based on compassion and based on bravery and never giving up and just, in a way, for me, just a place where I grew up, in a sense, a community of people who were all trying to, become enlightened for the benefit of all sentient beings. Fundamentally different motivation than, a lot of people that I grew up with as a kid. But, he was deeply troubled. He was an alcoholic. He was, traumatized from an early age by these experiences, and never really had the support to deal with the difficulties that he had faced, or really even acknowledge that he acknowledged them, but to process and heal from the traumas that he had faced as a young man. And frankly, the American students didn't help at all, because we we were, I think, blown away by him. I actually never met him, so I'm saying we, because I ended up hanging out with a lot of the early students of Trungpa Rinpoche and got to know him mostly through them and through his books. But he the society that he created, while strong in this big vision and super ambitious, was corrupt, and was patriarchal, and was deeply flawed, and was hypocritical, really. At the end of the day, when it came down to it, was a hypocritical environment. And so, we one by one left. Um, but moments that I think of in that world, on retreat, working at these retreat centers, studying Buddhism and practicing Buddhism alone in these little cabins perched up in the mountains or in huge groups for weeks or months at a time, really changed my life for the better and have stuck with me, in a very deep and powerful way. I absolutely would not be the person I am without the influence of Trungpa Rinpoche. So maybe actually this is the introduction to my talk on path, and and maybe I'll talk a little bit more next time about a more generalized view of this, but just to let you know, kind of the foundational person in my life with regard to learning about and practicing Buddhism. I could go all day and I could tell all kinds of stories about Trungpa Rinpoche, funny stories, weird stories, inspiring stories, and disturbing stories. But I'll just leave you with this quote again, and then let's sit for 15 minutes or so, and then we could have a discussion afterwards if anyone likes. So, pain is not a punishment. Pleasure is not a reward. Kindness, kindness, kindness. So please take a comfortable seat. Do you want to loosen up a little bit? And as you settle in this morning, just allow your attention to spread throughout your body. Just relax. Might feel like sinking down. This warm glow of attention and awareness and love to spread throughout your entire body. Your head, sinking through your face, and neck, your heart, your stomach, your hips, arms and legs, And when you feel your awareness permeating through your body, then allow it to radiate out into the world. Shining like the sun, warm, life-giving. If you find yourself caught up with thoughts of the past or the future, caught up with big important thoughts or little repeating habitual thoughts, just gently bring your awareness back to your body, to your breath. To the feeling of glowing out in the world, of shining. Of just being fully here. Just gently return to that experience of being fully here. Your mind is not going to stop thinking, which is a good thing. But let your thoughts be like a flag on a flagpole, just waving in the breeze. And don't lose sight of the entire world. The flagpole, the sky above it, the mountains behind it, the earth supporting it. Relax your awareness and take in the entire experience, your entire life. For a special treat this morning, I thought I would share a different dedication of merit chant, which I found up in Vermont at a friend's house. Actually, I don't know if Andrew and Amy are on the phone, but you guys here? I found this at Andrew and Amy's house in Vermont on the bulletin board, and I love this chant, so I thought we'd do this one for a change. Please join me if you like. Oh yeah. May all beings be peaceful. May all beings be happy. May all beings be safe. May all beings awaken to the light of their true nature. May all beings be free. Bow to each other. Thus concludes the meditation mindful aware session for this morning. Thank you all for joining. If anyone would like to stay and chat, I'll be around. And if not, have a lovely day. Hope to see you soon.
Thank you. I think this, I'm not sure, I'll have to check with Catherine, but my youngest daughter, who's here with me now, was in Boston 30 years ago and met two of the Rinpoches, and they had a